Well. Happy Saturday to you. Happy New Year. I can't believe it. We're into 2022 already. Looking forward to leaving 2021 behind. If you started perhaps drinking your adult beverage early yesterday, maybe you started watching the Cincinnati Alabama game and you thought, hey, if you're a Michigan fan, you like what you see. Feel pretty good about going up against one of these teams. So maybe you had a couple drinks in your hand. But it's New Year's Eve, of course. That makes a lot of sense too. And then you get ready to watch the Michigan game. It just didn't play out the way that Michigan fans wanted. And look, I'll tell you exactly when I thought, whoa, we're in trouble here. This thing's gonna get ugly. I'll tell you when that moment came for me here in just a couple of minutes. But look, I think that what this team did this year, what this staff has done this year, it's amazing. Going from unranked, beating Ohio State, winning the Big Ten, that's a bugaboo you had to shake. Haven't done it since 2014. It's a long time ago. So 2004, 17 years ago. Like, these are things that you got to shake. You got to shake those things. And they exercise some of those demons. But at the same time, you kind of felt like you had to show up in this game, even though you knew maybe Georgia is the better team. Even if you knew the Bulldogs were going to win the game, you still wanted Michigan to show up. And it just felt like Georgia was playing chess and the Wolverines were playing checkers. Just felt like they never really had an answer. And I'll tell you when I thought the wheels kind of fell off. And spoiler alert, it was early. It was early. So we'll talk about Michigan. In the meantime, you got Michigan State. It's a big year, winning 11 games, winning a New Year's Six Bowl, the first full year of Mel Tucker's tenure. It's really impressive. I will give you, my Spartan friends, perhaps a little reason to just proceed with caution. As a Michigan fan, as somebody who has seen a team with a lot of talent, and when that talent goes away, you got to find somebody else to replace it with. Mark D'Antonio did it well. We don't really know how Mel Tucker is going to do that, how he's going to replace that talent. So, great season for the Spartans. I think I had them under 6 wins. I think the over-under in Vegas was 4.5. It's a nice piece here. But with that being said, we'll talk about it coming up here in just a couple of minutes.
News Talk 760 WJR. Detroit's News Talk 760 WJR. It's time for Sports Wrap on 760 WJR.
All right, this is the wrap on 760 WJR.
To a car phone we go. Dave, thanks for hanging on. You're on 760.
Gentlemen, and Steve and Dan, you got the chemistry. It's cooking.
Presented by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sports app today. FanDuel, more ways to win.
Are you calling us from your office?
I'm doing SportsCenter tonight with
Are you really?
Dan Patrick.
Well, I'm very impressed. By the way, give Dan our best. He's a good man. And
I will. Hey, Dan, Chuck Swirsky says hi. This is the best sports wrap has ever been, in my opinion.
Now, here's your host, Chris Renwick.
Well. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody except for Michigan fans. That's not the way to ring in 2022. It just isn't. It's not fair. We got a lot to do tonight. I want you to weigh in. I need you to give me your thoughts on where you think the state of our teams here in this state are. Because look, things are on the ascending path for both Michigan and Michigan State. We'll get to the Spartans coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But I need you to call in. I want to hear from you. 800-859-0957, 800-859-0WJR. Last night, aside from all of the New Year's Eve shenanigans that you may have found yourself in, what a big football game here in the state. The Big Ten champs taking on Georgia. That vaunted Georgia team. All year, it's been Georgia, and then it's been everybody else until the Bulldogs got shellacked in the SEC championship game. Then I think the Wolverines kind of felt like, maybe we can hang with this team. Well, spoiler alert, they never did. They never could hang with this team. And I want to preface right off the top by saying what this team did this year. What this team did in terms of coming off of the year that they had last year, winning 2 games, and going forward, beating Ohio State, winning the Big Ten, those are really big deals for this program. It's a really big deal for Jim Harbaugh. And what I think we all kind of thought his future was going to be with this program. Those were big deals. Well, they checked the first 2 off. You beat Ohio State and you win the Big Ten. Those are big check marks that Jim Harbaugh was able to cross off on his whiteboard in his office. Now, when you go to the playoff, I think you're playing with house money. I think it's gravy because you didn't expect to be here. You certainly didn't expect to beat Ohio State, and you certainly didn't expect to go to Indy. So you're playing with house money. But as a Michigan fan, you want to go to that game and you want to show up. You want to go to that game and you want to show that you belong. You want to show that you can hang. And so last night, unfortunately for the Wolverines, it just didn't happen. And I'll tell you, because I'll tell you when I thought, and Jason, look, I'd love to hear from when you kind of thought the wheels were falling off too. I'll tell you when I thought, oh boy, this is bad. This is going to be a really long New Year's Eve. And it was the first play of the game. It was a 9-yard slash, sets up a 2nd and 1 for Georgia. And I'm thinking, this is going to go really poorly. And you watch the way that they worked in some of these guys. You watch the way that they worked in Kenny McIntosh and James Cook. Like, you see why Zamir White, why these guys are who they are. And you thought maybe Michigan had an opportunity, maybe have the advantage, the upper hand. Michigan's D-line versus Georgia's O-line. Never really transpired. And I thought after that first play, I thought, we're in trouble here. And then, of course, everything just snowballed. And by the time it was halftime, it was 27-3. When was that moment for you, Jace? When did you think the wheels were falling off?
When it was 17-0. My buddy had I texted my buddy. I said, "You doing okay?" I think he was.
It's nice to check up on your Wolverine.
You have to. And Michigan had gotten the ball back. He said they got to score on this drive right here. And so I said they don't play from behind well.
No, they have it all year. It's not who they are.
No, and they couldn't establish the run. And then when they went to, whether it was McCarthy in the game, whether it was McNamara, they were both just running for their lives. They had 2 seconds maybe to throw the ball, and I said, "Oh, good God, this is ugly." And man, that Georgia defense hits hard.
I'll tell you what. Here's the deal: is no matter what you say about the differences from the SEC and everybody else, like, those are real. Like, it's a different brand of football. This is a look, and maybe Alabama, and it's really just them. I mean, Florida doesn't really have it. Texas A&M doesn't really have it. Auburn, LSU, they've got size, not like this Georgia team. This Georgia team is gigantic. And again, these aren't excuses. Michigan didn't play a very good game. Told you, Georgia was playing chess, Michigan was playing checkers. Like the adjustments that were made on the fly, the scheme that was being played, Georgia outplayed Michigan in every facet of that game. Every single facet. When you swing James Cook out wide, and then you've got James or Josh Ross on him, I mean, like, that's a mismatch. And then Stetson Bennett is good enough to drop a dime into James Cook, who's essentially wide open. He's got 3 steps on Ross. And that's not a knock against Ross. It's just a mismatch. You're a linebacker taking on a borderline receiver, right? Like, he's a running back, but he's a receiver. And so they took advantage of the mismatches. And actually, Michigan did it later in the game with Donovan Edwards. And it worked well. But at the same time, Georgia was just always moving the pieces around. And then you see on defense where, Michigan's bread and butter this year has been that offensive line. They've been able to establish and maintain that leverage up front. They've been good in pass blocking. They've been good in run blocking. And yesterday, they really weren't very good neither. I mean, you want to talk about the rushing totals? Look, and this is where when you have establish an identity of rushing the football, and then you go against a team that will stop the run, you got Hassan Haskins with 39 yards, right? Like, your second leading rusher was J.J. McCarthy. Like, Blake Corum had 13 yards. It's just, it ended up being in a situation where Georgia, they weren't necessarily like angry that they lost the SEC championship game. Their motivation was, give us another shot. We want Alabama again. Like, let's run it back. And that was the motivation. So it wasn't necessarily anything against Michigan. It wasn't like the vitriol that Michigan and Ohio State share. This was just a good old-fashioned butt whooping, and the Bulldogs laid it on. And really, the only reason Michigan scored a touchdown towards the end of the game, they didn't. I mean, you had second stringers in, and they kind of let the foot off the gas. The game was over. So, it's a tough matchup. It was a tough situation, but I think you need to put it into perspective here. 12 wins, win over Ohio State, win the Big Ten championship. Those are big deals, and thankfully, they were able to get it done this year. We'll take a look at the Spartans coming up next. And then after that, we're going to talk about these two teams in terms of the future. Because I could make the argument that both of these teams are on the up and up. Both of these teams are in the upward trajectory. It may be a little more difficult for Michigan State going forward. I'll tell you why I think that. Coming up as SportsWrap continues right here on WJR. Chris Renwick in this evening. Good to have you with us. Don't go anywhere. More to come next.
Homeowners who have not refinanced are leaving a ton of money on the table. Make sure
Joey,
you're not one of them.
Green says
Just
Joe
takes
Harper.
a quick call to American
Michigan
Financing.
embarrassed the state
America's
of Michigan.
Home for
All
home
right.
loans. You'll get a free, no obligation mortgage review.
Play well.
No
They
pressure,
didn't
no
play
upfront
well.
or hidden fees. Just a simple conversation around ways you can save
I
up
just
to
think I don't know if
$1,000
it
a
was
month.
the game plan.
All
I
without
don't know if
starting
it
your
was
term
the
over.
time
That's
off.
right.
I don't know
They
what
can do
exactly
any
it
term
was.
10 years and
But
over.
they didn't.
And
They
you may
weren't
be
as
able to
crisp.
postpone
They didn't
2
look
mortgage
as
payments,
sharp.
creating even greater upfront savings.
And
Imagine what you can do
you
with that
can't-
money. Then pick up
can't
the
bring
phone
that
and call
into a
American
game with Georgia.
Financing.
Just
They're
can't.
open now, and they're open
team
nights
that has
and weekends.
just
So
played
they're
so well
always
this year.
available when you need them. 800
It's tough. It's a tough
777
spot to be in, but look,
8109.
you want to be there.
800 777
Right, like Michigan State
8109.
plays Alabama in
visit
2015. You get hammered
AmericanFinancing.net.
50-0. You want to
American
be there.
Financing,
You
NMLS
got to be there. The
18234,
only way you
NMLS
get a chance to play for an Eddie
consumeraccess.org.
is
Introducing
if you punch a ticket
thegreatvoice.com,
to the
a
building.
new
You gotta be
podcast
there.
website from News Talk 760
So you definitely,
WJR, with
you know,
all your
it's-
favorite
it's
WJR content
tough-
delivered directly to your desktop or mobile
tough
device.
spot. There's
Plus
no doubt about it.
podcasts you
Tough
can
spot
only
to be
find
in,
on
but,
thegreatvoice.com.
you got to give it to Georgia. They played
Hey,
really
it's
well.
Ken Oswald. Join Dean Barber and I as we discuss the things you need to do to start 2022 off right so you can live with clarity, confidence, and control. Join us Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m. right here
Michigan
on
State,
WJR
meanwhile,
AM
I mean,
760.
they just do
Hi, this
what
is
they've
Chuck
done all
again, the
year. I
Inside
mean,
Outside Guys.
all year.
Go to theinsideoutsideguys.com
In that
ask
game
the
in the Peach
questions.
Bowl on Thursday.
Be sure to
I mean,
listen
just-
every Saturday and Sunday
it's
morning,
what we
10
do
a.m.
all
to noon,
year.
right here.
This is
on
the identity that Mel Tucker has
WJR.
established.
The Inside Outside Guys are brought to you in part by EJH Construction.
For over 50 years, EJH has been a leader in commercial construction.
My name is Patrick Tortora. I'm a commercial landlord with locations throughout the Midwest. As a landlord, you want your tenants to be efficient in their jobs. I had a commercial building in Bloomfield Hills. It was unfortunately the site of an accident where a couple cars ran through the side of the building, and EJH was there. The window was boarded up that night. They worked with 2 different insurance companies, provided the estimates. The claim was paid promptly. The work was done properly. My tenants didn't close even one single day, in spite of 2 cars smashing the side of their building.
EJH is the only choice when it comes to commercial construction. For more information, call 800-854-4534. That's 800-854-4534, or go to ejhconstruction.com.
It's a time of tremendous uncertainty for everyone, but some things haven't changed. Stomach cancer is still a leading cause of cancer death worldwide. More than 1 million people will be diagnosed this year alone, and it's vital to know your risks and learn ways to prevent it. It's also critical for cancer patients to protect themselves from all viruses. No Stomach for Cancer encourages you to listen to medical experts to understand your risks. Find out more about COVID-19 at cancer.gov and learn more about your risks for stomach cancer at nostomachforcancer.org.
Now back to more Sports Wrap. Presented by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sports app today. FanDuel, more ways to win. Here's Chris Renwick.
Meanwhile, Michigan State just doing what Michigan State has done all year in that Peach Bowl, beating Georgia 31-21. You know, it was closer than the score ended up being, right? Like Cal Halliday's, what was it, almost 80-yard pick 6 at the end of the game when Georgia was trying to claw their way back. I mean, look, it's a 10-point win, but it really was a 3-point game up until the end. And in a situation where you're facing a ton of adversity, you don't have K9, right? Kenneth Walker's not there for you. Naylor's just coming back from being injured. You don't know what you're going to get from him. And look, Peyton Thorne was lousy in that first half. Just wasn't very good. Didn't look crisp, didn't look decisive, didn't have the quite the touch that he's had all year. That changed in the second half. I mean, he was fantastic. He played like he had all year. Peyton Thorne is a heck of a player. And Michigan State did what they have been doing all year. Scratch, claw, fight. You play till the final whistle is blown. I mean, that is what they do. That is the mentality. That is the mindset. That's what that keep chopping means. It's what it means. You keep going. You play until the game is over. And, you know, start of the fourth quarter, they're down 21-10. And you're thinking, this thing is over. Look, the storyline was not going to be good. No Kenny Pickett. Nope, no Kenny Pickett. Nick Patty comes in, the backup quarterback. He goes 2 for 5, rushes for a touchdown, and then breaks his collarbone. He's out. Enter Davis Bevel, your third string quarterback. And Bevel, 14 for 18, 149 yards, averaging 8.5 a pop almost, with a touchdown and pick. Looked pretty good. And that was kind of the one worry for the Spartans going in. That secondary is a sieve. They are the worst secondary in the country. They are the worst defense against the pass in all of Division I football. But they kept chopping. They kept at it. And again, I've said it, I don't know how many times throughout the course of the season. You got to give Mel Tucker a ton of props, a ton of credit, because the mindset that he has instilled in this team, in this program, is almost immeasurable. I mean, really, this thing was spiraling out of control at the end of the D'Antonio era. It just was. It's fact. They weren't very good. They weren't going anywhere. They weren't turning those 3-star, 2-star kids into first-round, NFL picks anymore. They weren't doing it. Like that magic, that thing had left East Lansing. It wasn't there anymore. And so things, they were not going in the right direction for the Spartans. And then Mel Tucker comes into the game late last year. They have a rough season through COVID. Everybody did. And away you go. And the way that he worked the portal this year, the way that he built this team, the way that he was able to build this foundation really in a year. I mean, this is quick, dry cement here. This guy did it in no time. It's incredible. It's an incredible job by Mel Tucker and this staff. Really, it's wonderful. It's a masterclass. And you wonder why teams like LSU, programs like LSU, perhaps even USC, were after this guy. That's why. Because they see what he's doing in a year. It's incredible. So you got to give the Spartans a lot of credit. Because, beating Michigan, that's the barometer in East Lansing. Just like at Michigan, it's beating Ohio State. At Michigan State, you got to beat the Wolverines. They did. Mission accomplished. Next week, you get popped against Purdue. You can't do that. Right? Like, that's a bugaboo that you got to fix. You beat your rival, but then you got to come back strong because all the cards are on the table still. Like, you still have an opportunity to lay your flush down. And then, it didn't work out. And then you go get bombed against Ohio State. No shame in that. And then your plans are derailed a little bit. But this team is headed in the right direction. This team wasn't equipped to win the Big Ten. They weren't. But the fact of the matter is, you're seeing where they want to take this thing. You're seeing where Tucker wants to go with it. And you have a quarterback that, look, Peyton Thorne's never going to win you Heisman. But he's a game manager who makes good decisions most of the time, and he's got a good arm. And when you have somebody like that, you can work with it. You can add the pieces however you want, whether it's recruiting, whether it's development, or through the transfer, because we know, Mel Tucker can do it all. So I think that the future prognosis here, and this is kind of where I need your help, 800-859-0957, is who do you think's got the rosier outlook here? Who do you think of these two teams is going in even the ascension is even steeper? Because I'll tell you this. I think that when you look at the makeup of this team and where the talent came from, they're transfer guys, right? Kenneth Walker, Jalen Reed, Jaden Naylor. Like, those guys are all transfer players. And it's not a shot at player development or recruiting. I mean, we really don't know how Mel Tucker is going to recruit yet. Like, he's got a top 20 class. That's great. But you're coming off a really nice year here. But you also have some guys that you can't expect a Kenneth Walker in the portal every year. You can't expect a Reed or Naylor every year. And so I think that's where a lot of the questions are going to be. For Michigan State going forward, who are they? Who are their guys? Who are the dogs, the Spartan dogs? Who are they? I mean, I'll tell you, Trey Mosley looks like a guy that is going to be your number one receiver next year. The West Bloomfield product. He looks like the guy who's going to be the receiver next year. Like, he was your third behind Naylor and Reed this year. I think he's the guy next year. But you lose the production of Naylor and Reed? It's tough. That's a tough proposition. And I know you got the kid coming in from Wisconsin, but geez, oh Pete, he ain't Kenneth Walker. I'll tell you that right now. So I just think and I've seen it with Michigan. You saw the talent when Jim Harbaugh gets there, the Jabril Peppers, the Glasgows, all those guys that went on to play in the NFL, still playing in the NFL, have had productive careers. Chris Wormley, all those guys. You see kind of what happened when you lose that talent. You see what happened when you don't, when you're not able to restock right away. And maybe Mel Tucker can. Maybe Mel Tucker is going to work the portal again like a magician. But to have those expectations every year, I think you gotta temper them. Meanwhile, for Michigan, I think Michigan's on a much different track. I think that J.J. McCarthy is a different type of quarterback. And if Cade McNamara and they continue to do this, I don't think that they're going to continue to do this back and forth thing. Like JJ, there was packages for JJ. JJ was, he had certain things in the playbook that were only designed for him. Cade was the starter. Well, now next year, when you kind of see what JJ can do under the lights in a big time game, in a big time moment. I mean, that pass down the sideline in that Ohio State game for JJ coming in cold was jaw dropping. I mean, he's got a howitzer for an arm, but he's got a little bit of touch too. It needs refinement. Where JJ needs to kind of develop and mature and mature is when you don't see your first read, you don't need to take off and run. You need to go through your progressions, and that's not something that he's done a real good job of. He's a true freshman. And Cade's a junior, right? Like, it's different when you're kind of seeing where the talent is. Donovan Edwards, freshman. Blake Corum, sophomore. Eric All's a junior. Roman Wilson's a junior. Andrell Anthony is a freshman. Cornelius Johnson's a junior. Mike Sanderstill, AJ Henning, sophomores. Now, that's the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, you lose a lot of folks. I mean, you're going to lose a majority of your players. Aiden Hutchinson's gone. David Ajabo, gone. Donovan Jeter, Christopher Hinton. I mean, those guys in the middle, probably gone. Dax Hill, gone. I mean, you lose a lot on the defensive side of the ball. But with that being said, they worked a lot of guys in. Rod Moore, DJ Turner, those are guys that they worked in. Nakai Hill-Green at the linebacker spot, worked them in. So, yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. 800-859-0957 on who you think is kind of heading in the maybe even the right direction, but just at a quicker pace. Because I think there are still some things to address within that Michigan State roster where I think the questions are a little less in Ann Arbor. But I'd love to get your thoughts on it. 800-859-0957. I think that the message here is you got two great football teams in this state. You got two really good programs in this state that it just makes this division in the Big Ten East a lot more. It's just a lot more fun to watch. So we'll keep an eye on it. In the meantime, coming up on the other side, get you caught up on what else is going around college football. I want to get Jason's thoughts also on the Cincinnati-Alabama game. We'll talk about that. We have the Rose Bowl going on right now. Second quarter action. Utah, Ohio State. I'll give you the score on that one coming up next. I'll tell you the score. We'll tell you who's winning. It's 28-14. We'll tell you who's winning next here on SportsWrap. Look, I'm sure you've heard all about FanDuel Sportsbook by now. I've been telling you about them for a long time. Did you know they're an official sports betting partner of the NFL? That means when you place your bets, you're doing it on a trustworthy app. The NFL doesn't get into business with slouches. And by the way, if you're a fan of the NBA like I am, celebrate the NBA's 75th season on FanDuel Sportsbook because right now, new customers place your first bet risk-free. And if you don't win, you get up to $1,000 back. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now is the time to give it a shot because everything's easy to use, easy to register. Hey, Chase, let's come back with now. Cut You're accepting Venmo. Plus, when you win your money, you get paid in as little as 2 hours. Look, there's no better place to bet on the NBA than with FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, sign up, use my promo code Renwick to get that first bet risk-free up to $1,000 and make every moment special this NBA season. Again, that's promo code Renwick.
21 and older and present in Michigan. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problems? Call 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help.
Hi, this is Chuck and Ken, the Inside Outside Guys. Go to the InsideOutsideGuys.com and ask a question. Be sure to listen every Saturday and Sunday morning, 10 a.m. to noon, right here on WJR.
The Inside Outside Guys are brought to you in part by EJH Construction.
For over 50 years, EJH has been a leader in commercial construction.
My name's Patrick Tortora. I'm a commercial landlord with locations throughout the Midwest. As a landlord, you want your tenants to be efficient in their jobs. I had a commercial building in Bloomfield Hills. It was unfortunately the site of an accident where a couple cars ran through the side of the building, and EJH was there. The window was boarded up that night. They worked with 2 different insurance companies, providing the estimates. The claim was paid promptly. The work was done properly. My tenants didn't close even one single day, in spite of 2 cars smashing into the side of their building.
EJH is the only choice when it comes to commercial construction. For more information, call 800-854-4534. That's 800-854-4534, or go to ejhconstruction.com.
Are you blind or losing vision? Do you feel like it's controlling your life and your decision, possibly limiting you? Well, I've been there. But through the National Federation of the Blind, I have learned that I don't have to allow blindness to define me, and you don't have to either. To learn more and find the support you need, simply visit blind.org. That's blind.org. The National Federation of the Blind. Live the life you want.
Hey, Joe, I thought you were retired.
Living on a fixed income is tough. So here I am, an essential worker.
I know. I mean, food prices are going up every day. Thank goodness for benefitscheckup.org.
Benefits what?
Benefitscheckup.org. It's a free website where people over 60 can find help to pay for food, medicine, even utilities. I got $1,200 a year in benefits. Maybe it can help you.
Now back to more Sports Wrap. Presented by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sports app today. FanDuel, more ways to win. Here's Chris Renwick.
All right, welcome back. I wanted to play before we get to what's going on out in Pasadena. I want to, and we'll get you caught up on some other scores around college football as well as the Bowls games continue here on New Year's Day. I wanted to talk about, or I wanted to get you some of this audio from Jim Harbaugh, Cade McNamara, and Josh Ross after the game, because obviously they were disappointed. And Harbaugh said, to kind of kick things off, look, it wasn't their game. They didn't have it. Here is cut one.
Congratulations to Georgia. They played a heck of a game in all phases. Love the way our guys fought. Wasn't our best, but certainly was theirs. They played extremely well.
There's no doubt about that. Meanwhile, the players kind of gave their thoughts about the loss, and they were asked specifically about the season as a whole. Because when you go out, look, quite frankly, you blew the game against Michigan State, up 15 through halfway through the third quarter. You really just can't do that. But I think that propelled them going forward. You beat Ohio State, you go to Indy, you beat Iowa to win the Big Ten for the first time in forever. And I think that the players kind of took that in totality in terms of kind of looking back on this season as a whole, separating the championship or the playoff game from the rest of the season. Here it is, cut 4, Cade McNamara.
I think, obviously it's very disappointing right now. I mean, we gave, everything we got, and we got beat tonight. But I think, once we give it a little time, we'll be able to appreciate a lot of the great things we were able to accomplish this season. But, after a loss, you're obviously going to take it hard, and, we're a competitive group, but that's not going to take away from, the great things that we had this season as well.
Yeah, to piggyback what Kay said, we did accomplish great things this year, and although it is a disappointing way to end it,
we did do great things this year. We can't forget about that. Today we got outplayed, and it wasn't the best game for us. But as far as the season, as far as a whole, we had so many great moments with our group. Such a great culture that we built here. And like Coach Harbaugh says, it's just the beginning of what we've built, what we are building, and moving on to next year.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what they're building on, because this is a good start. But again, you lose a lot of talent on that defense, so it could kind of be interesting to see what they're building. Offensively, you can kind of see it. Defensively, there are questions. All right, one of the greatest. I don't care what conference you're a fan of. I don't care what team you're a fan of. The Rose Bowl is, as Brent Musburger used to say, granddaddy of them all. It is the bowl game. And to have that connection with the Big Ten is really special. So it's something that we here in this footprint, in this conference, cherish. Now, it's special because it's got the parade. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance surrounding the Rose Bowl. It's a big deal. And you got Ohio State as the home team against number 11 Utah. Ohio State has pulled within 7 now. It's 28-21 Utah with 7:07 to go. Utah with the ball. Utah scoring 14 points in each of the first 2 quarters. Ohio State scoreless in the first, and then they've rattled off 21 unanswered points here in the second quarter. That's impressive. In the meantime, out at the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl.
Oh my God! Do you have the game on right now?
I do not have it on. Was this
4th and 1? Utah's quarterback, just a little quarterback sneak. He kind of twirls his way and just scampers for a 60-yard touchdown.
Oh my goodness.
So I was going to say first team to 60, maybe first team to 70 now.
Yeah. The over under in that game, I think, was in the 60s.
64.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you took the over, I think you're going to win this one. At the Fiesta Bowl, in what was a really intriguing matchup, because you thought Notre Dame and Okie State were kind of the other 2 teams outside of Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, and Cincinnati that were kind of making a push. Oklahoma State got beat by Baylor in the Big 12 championship game, and that knocked them out of the picture. But Notre Dame was on the bubble. They were that 15. How about Okie State beating Notre Dame 37-35? Notre Dame blew a 28-14 halftime lead. Okie State scored 17 points in the third quarter, held Notre Dame scoreless in that stanza. And then at the end of the day, they beat Notre Dame 37-35. Jason, I have a bit of a trivia question for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
When was the last time Notre Dame won a New Year's Six bowl?
I do know the answer to that.
You do know the answer.
Never. 0-8 in BCS and New Year's Six bowl games.
Yes. The last time they won what now is considered the Cotton Bowl was 1994 against Texas A&M. They are 0-10 since 1994 in what now we consider these New Year's Six games. 0-10. As an independent, this is what you play for. Like, you're not always going to make the national championship game, obviously. You don't have a conference championship game to look forward to. You don't even have a division conference championship to look forward to. Like, you are playing for one of these 6 bowl games. And Notre Dame is 0-10 since 94 when they won the Cotton Bowl. I mean, what are you doing? Look, I get it's a money thing. I get it's I get it all. I get it. But that's an embarrassment. You want to talk about an embarrassment? It's the Fighting Irish in the postseason. They stink. In the meantime, also today in the Citrus Bowl, Kentucky outlasts Iowa 20-17. Late touchdown in the fourth quarter with under 1.5 to go propels the Wildcats over the Hawkeyes in Iowa. And Petrus at the end of the game threw a pick and got pressured, scrambled to his left, and threw across his body through the interception. I mean, look, Iowa's defense, they're okay. Like, they're good. Their offense stinks. Like, Iowa was the number 2 team in the country at one point. You remember that? They're terrible. They stink.
That was this year?
Yeah, right. Right. Penn State loses to Arkansas. Arkansas, 24-10. Good luck with that 10-year contract. And you know, I'm James Franklin is gonna James Franklin. Like, that's what he's gonna do. It's what he's gonna do. Penn State loses 24-10 to Arkansas.
Was that the SEC's first bowl win too? Besides the national
Georgia.
Yeah. And
The SEC has not. Well. Yeah, they have not fared well. And I think Michigan's the only team from Michigan to lose in their bowl game. You got LSU, Kansas State. That's Tuesday. And then you got Georgia, Alabama, still on the docket. So that's just a couple of things that when I was going back and I was like, when was the last time Notre Dame won like a legit bowl game? Like, never is the answer. Never. 94. Chase, 94. I was 6. I was 7 years old in 94.
I was 15.
I mean, what? Can you put? That's incredible. That's an incredible. It's actually like difficult to do. I feel. I don't know. It's pretty remarkable. I'll tell you what. We'll take a quick break. Come back on the other side. I want to talk about New Year's resolutions. Let's talk New Year's resolutions. I want to jump to the NFL and talk about New Year's resolutions. Look, you want to weigh in on Michigan State? 800-859-0957. It's a number for you. Call, text, whatever you want to do. You want to hop on Facebook and join us on the show there. We're streaming live. God bless. Do it. We're there for you. 800-859-0WJR. We'll talk about New Year's resolutions. And we'll talk about the greatest player in NFL history. We'll talk about his New Year's resolution. Coming up next here on SportsWrap.
When you have a gambling problem, you have a money problem.
10 gallons of gas, cash or credit?
Yesterday's lottery ticket won't fill up your tank. Because when you're feeding a gambling problem...
Okay, your grocery total is $98.
It's difficult putting food on the table, paying your bills, and keeping your life together. If you or a loved one is struggling with gambling, get free confidential help at michigan.gov/problemgambling. Sponsored by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
Homeowners who have not refinanced are leaving a ton of money on the table. Make sure you're not one of them. It just takes a quick call to American Financing, America's home.
So the new over-under, if you were to do an in-game bet with the Rose Bowl, is 94.
No upfront or hidden fees. Just a simple conversation around ways you can save up to $1,000 a month, all without starting your term over. That's right. They can do any term 10 years and over, and you may be able to postpone 2 mortgage payments, creating even greater upfront savings. Imagine what you can do with that money. Then pick up the phone and call American Financing. They're open now, and they're open nights and weekends, so they're always available when you need them. 800-777-8109. That's 800-777-8109. Or visit AmericanFinancing.net. American Financing, NMLS 182334, NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
I'm okay.
You're not okay.
It's normal to have diarrhea and stomach pains.
Sometimes, but not as often as you do.
I've got this under control.
No, you don't.
It's time to let that voice inside your head be heard. Urgent diarrhea and chronic stomach pain can be signs of Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation can help you learn more and even find a specialist. Don't keep your symptoms to yourself. Get help at spillyourguts.org.
On our first date, we had masks on and kept 6 feet apart. Now, we're a lot closer.
Just like Cliff and Deb, thousands of singles over 50 found their perfect match on Silver Singles last year.
I feel like I'm 20 years old again, and I'm pretty sure she feels the same way.
Rediscover the magic of dating with Silver Singles, the exclusive community for singles over 50. Sign up today and receive daily matches you won't want to miss at silversingles.com/radio. silversingles.com/radio.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you: printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-501-3689 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-501-3689 for your free author submission kit. Again, 800-501-3689.
Now back to more Sports Wrap. Presented by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sports app today. FanDuel, more ways to win. Here's Chris Renwick.
Can't hear you.
This Rose Bowl is insane. Well, Jason, what is happening? I mean, this is 5 touchdowns scored in the span of about 3 minutes. Jackson Smith-Njigba he caught a beautiful pass from CJ Stroud and was about 10 yards from the end zone when one of the Utah players from behind punched the ball out. He fumbled into the end zone and Utah recovered. What is happening in Pasadena right now?
Somebody turned the power on the PlayStation.
Oh my gosh. This is wild.
And in the meantime, with yesterday's national championship semifinals, the committee's going, man, these were 2 dog games. But these other games are entertaining, but they don't mean as much as those did.
Right. You love that. You know. I love that excuse. First of all bowl games, most of the bowl games, they don't mean anything. They don't. Your New Year's 6 games, they mean a little more. Especially when you're talking about recruiting, especially when you're talking about, getting players in the mix. It's a big deal. Those are bigger games when you're dealing with, does the result necessarily matter? It doesn't. So can you get some younger guys in? Can you get some playing time in against really good talent? Yep, you can. Like, those are different kind of beasts. I don't need necessarily to play Fresno State in a bowl game. That does nothing for me. The players get a nice new water bottle and bag. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing else that's really beneficial. So the New Year's 6
Some of these
games
aren't even played in warm climates, like
the Pinstripe Bowl in Yankee Stadium,
which is cool. But I mean, is it really a reward?
No. Oh God, no. No, it is not. No, it is not. Who wants to go to New York? No. It's not a reward. I mean, it's cool to play at Yankee Stadium, I guess, but that's
about the only appeal.
So no, I never buy these games don't matter. They do matter, especially when you're talking about recruiting, especially when you say, look, we get to these games, right? Like, we're not playing in the Pinstripe Mayo Bowl and whatever. We don't play in those games. We play in the New Year's 6, or we're knocking on the doorstep to the CFP. That's what we do here. Like, that's the draw. That's how you do this thing. So those bowl games matter. The Rose Bowl matters. It matters. Absolutely, it matters. The stupid PlayStation Fiesta Bowl matters. Yeah, it does. Of course it does. So Herbie's an Ohio State guy. He's gonna do a little bit of the talking out of both sides of his mouth. I generally like Kirk Herbstreit. I was a little annoyed with him last night. Like, at one point in that Michigan game, he was like, well, I think we should probably start moving on to the championship game with like 8 minutes left. And I'm like, hey, Kirk, could you not? Like, is that the salt in the wound for beating your alma mater? Like, is that how it works? So I wasn't real happy with that. But I was all right. Well, look, I wasn't in a good place, Jason. I'm sorry. I wasn't in a good place.
Did you happen to see him on the pregame show yesterday? Kirk Herbstreit was. They were obviously in Miami. The heat was so intense he kept running off the set.
No, I didn't see that.
I'll have to find a video. So when he finally came back to the set, he had one of the vents pointing at one of his, like, down by his legs so he could get some air conditioning. But they kept making fun of him. He just kept running off set. And
he looked like Cindy Crawford at a photo shoot. He's got his hair blowing around, his ties all over the place.
Right.
Here's the thing is these bowl games, of course, matter. They absolutely matter. Do you do the New Year's resolution thing? Is that something you do, Jason? Is that something you partake in?
No, I generally don't. I've already started to do things like I've been going back to the gym regularly. I started that in November. So certain things I've gotten a jump start on. But right. The new year, I definitely don't put pen to paper when it comes to that.
All right. Well, most people don't. You know who else it doesn't seem like does that is Bill Belichick. Now, I think that this needs to be said. Bill Belichick, especially when it comes to like media availability, press conferences, Bill Belichick is like, he's like the Marshawn Lynch of like the regular season. Like every day he is Marshawn Lynch. I'm just here so I won't get fined. Like I'm just here so I won't get fined. Bill Belichick doesn't offer anything up. And if you ever watch one of his press conferences, doesn't offer anything up. Hey, coach, the Lions, Jared Goff, obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown, somebody you got to keep an eye on, TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre. So how do you keep them in check? Well, we just got a game plan for them. That's it. You just got to keep an eye on them, and that's it. And like he just kind of shrugs his shoulders, like, okay, like next. Well, all right, okay. How do you plan defensively? I mean, they've been playing pretty well lately. How do you stop the corners? What do you do to the front seven? How do you get them to come downhill so you can hit them over the top? How do you do it? Well, you got to make sure that you're doing the job in practice to make sure. Like, okay, all right. So Bill Belichick doesn't offer anything, and so when somebody comes to the table with a new question, something that is a little out there, obviously the attention gets drawn to it. I give you Exhibit 1, Juliet Pennington. She apparently is a reporter with the Boston Globe. She attended a New England Patriots press conference after they had just lost to the Bills. Mind you, this is like the Monday after they lost. And she asked this question to Bill Belichick.
Hi, football aside, sorry, but I'm doing a story about New Year's resolutions, and I was just wondering if you had any you wanted to share with your fans and our readers.
Yeah, no, not right now.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe next week.
Maybe next week. I'll throw it out there that I'm trying to cut down on my sweets. Like, what do you look? Even if you're not a football person, like I think everybody has a general idea of the overall demeanor of Bill Belichick. Like, especially if you're in the New England area, if you're in Boston, you know Bill Belichick's personality. So coming to him asking for his New Year's resolution is it's a both strong and interesting move. So he says, I don't know, maybe next week. Then what Juliet Pennington does, what does she do? She comes back and asks the follow-up to Bill Belichick. Listen here.
New Year's Eve day. Have you had a chance to consider any New Year's resolutions since I asked you on Sunday?
Yeah, they would all be personal, so it probably wouldn't mean anything to you anyway. Thank you.
And what you don't, obviously, we can't provide to you here. But if you watch the video, Like, I encourage you to go on Twitter and check this out. He's got this little smirk at the end. Like, the rage is building, and the only like productive way he can let that rage out in that moment is to just smile. First of all, Bill Belichick never smiles. Ever. But for whatever reason, just at the end of that, he was just like, there was this just a tinge of a smile. And for a second, I was fearful for everybody in that room. I was afraid of what Bill Belichick. I mean, that is an all-timer. Then you got Tom Brady weighing in. Says, I want to be as brave and courageous as she was. Asking that question to Coach Belichick after a loss. That's what I want for the new year.
And she said she was doing a story, not a story about Bill Belichick.
No.
So where's the story and who participated?
It's a good question. Just do a quick search on that. We only have a second a second or two left here. Can we get a Juliet Penn? Let me see if I can do it here. We only have a couple seconds here. Juliet Pennington New Year's story. New Year's. All right, let's see. So she is all right, here we go. Let's see. So no, we have no Julia Pennington story yet.
So it more than likely was somebody was ribbing her, or she decided to do it herself to see what he would say.
Well, is she doing like a piece on New Year's resolutions for dignitaries and those in the New England area? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what Julia Pennington's going to do. I love it. It's wonderful.
We look forward to her future material.
I will look for if she posts this tonight, we will bring it to you on SportsWrap tomorrow. All right, that's going to do it for us. Have yourself a wonderful Saturday. Back at it tomorrow, 6 to 7 right here on WJR. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your Saturday. And my goodness, if you're watching this Rose Bowl, pour yourself a stiff one because you're in for a bumpy ride. Have a good night.
Are you blind or losing vision? Do you feel like it's controlling